afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a Friday version of High Heat. Calendar turns to November. It's nice to have you with us. As we talked about the world of baseball, we got a busy day today. We look forward to it. Alana here momentarily. We'll do as good a job as we've done in the last 2,200 of these shows in the last 11 years because this is the last High Heat here on the MLB Network. We'll give you some details on that a little later on. So we do this show in conjunction with all those who have worked on it in the last 11 seasons, and that includes Benji Goldsmith today, who is the director, producer, and of course our buddy Chris Benetti. We'll get Alana here momentarily as we talk about what's going on as far as the world of sports is concerned. Let's start with sort of a recap of the World Series. Great story in today's New York Post. Joe Sherman, part of our little family here at the network, who talked about how poor the Yankees were. We all know it fundamentally, and how when the Yankees go in the deep end of the pool, that can do the same things the Yankees can do, which is hit the ball out of the ballpark. That's when the Yankees have a lot of struggles, and the Dodgers had scouted the Yankees so well that they even knew that the Yankees do not run the bases or get good enough leads, which prevented them to have to worrying about Gavin Lux on double play turns, because I guess he's not good on the double play turns. But the Yankees, because they took such poor leads off first base, were never going to pressure Lux. A lot to that story, but the Dodgers knew that the Padres were much better fundamentally than the Yankees are. If you're a Yankee fan who is still trying to search for answers of what happened in that 5-game series, Joel's story today will help you, find that dotted line, and it looks bad from a Yankee perspective. That's number one. Number two, let's do the ratings, and it's really a shame that we didn't get to a Game 6, because if you did get to a Game 6, you would have done very, very well, because obviously they averaged about 15.5 or 15.8 million over the 5-game series. That is, of course, the best rating they've had for the World Series since 2017 with the Dodgers and the Houston Astros. And remember something else, too. They didn't get a Game 6 and 7. Houston and the Dodgers did. Plus, Houston and the Dodgers began on a Tuesday, while the Yankee World Series began on a Friday with Game 2 on Saturday. So much better times for the Houston-LA series 7 years ago than it was for the Dodgers series. And they had 18.6 million there on Wednesday night. So if they would have gotten to a Game 6 tonight, with all the drama that would have meant, amongst other things, the Yankees trying to do something nobody's ever done, and that's come from 3-0 down, 48 hours to go get everybody all pumped up for it. Nothing on television tonight, 3-2 at Dodger Stadium with the World Series nearly on the line, and then at Game 7 tomorrow, they would have been in the low 20s minimum for this World Series. So that is something that you keep an eye on. And everybody who claims that baseball is dead in the water, we'll leave football alone for a sec. That Boston NBA series with Dallas that everybody screams and yells about, that averaged about 11.5 million. That's in June with no big competition because they're not up against any kind of football. That is June. That's also Boston-Dallas. Boston's the best market in the NBA. Now, it's not the Lakers, but it's Boston-Dallas. They had an 11.6 average and the same amount of games. 5 games. It's not like we did 7 and they did 4. 5 games apiece, 11.6 for them, 15.8 for baseball. Now, I understand that, Dodgers and Yankees is the best the sport can give you, but still, I wanted to throw those numbers out for you right out of the gate to get us going. The second idea, of course, is the Soto sweepstakes, which, basically you can talk to Soto's representation now, can't talk figures, which I'm sure they do anyway, and then down the road, you can have a discussion with him specifically on what those terms could look like, and that's going to be in about 6-7 days. And here's the thing that I wish more than anything else, where Soto plays, I think it's going to probably be the Yankees or the Mets. Might be one team in the mix there that could get involved, but I would say Yankees and Mets at the end of the day. I just hope they don't drag this out, and that's to the agent, Scott Boras. We don't need to be sitting here in March figuring out where Soto is going to take his $722 million. It's just so bad. It's a bad look for the sport. That's why the deadline at the winter meetings would be great. I understand why the Players Association wouldn't agree to it, because that puts a timeline on it, which gives the owners, basically you go right to the deadline, you can get them for less money. I understand that, but it's better for the sport, because this dragging out, through the new year, through the playoffs, through the Super Bowl, you need a little gap where there's nothing going on in baseball. And I got to read about Soto on February 20th when spring training starts and he doesn't have a team yet. That is very, very annoying. And hopefully they don't do that this time. Harper, Machado, hopefully we don't wait forever and we get something done, let's say by, Christmas. Is that a fair scenario with Soto? And he he'd be silly if he left the Yankees. Unless the difference in money was just ridiculous. He'd be silly to leave the Yankees. Right field, the house that Ruth built. The Yankees are the Yankees. I understand the Dodgers just beat him, and they're probably the team right now. But he'd be silly if he ever left the Yankees. We shall see how this maneuvers here. You got Steve Cohen in the mix with the Mets. We'll keep an eye on that. And as far as the other teams are concerned, let's start with the Mets. With Soto and everything else, the Mets are very intriguing here as we begin our off-season discussion. Very intriguing because they got a tremendous general manager who is sort of a mid-market guy who likes to find bargains and everything else. David Stearns, who did the same with Milwaukee, build competitive teams on the margins. And then he's got an owner who, wants to spend big money if he has a chance to spend big money, understands New York, wants to build something along the Dodgers line. So how those two coexist will be fascinating because I'm not sure if Stearns wants to give Soto $700 million and have nothing left for anybody else. But that is going to be fascinating if Steve decides, you know what, I got to have this guy. He's so good. He's 26 years of age. This would be great for our market. Plus, we're hurting the Yankees, which are 6 miles away. We do compete for the same entertainment dollar. Let me make a run at him. I don't know how to read it because the Mets were very good this year without going crazy with free agency. Had the wonderful season. Maybe that changes his mind. They tried Scherzer, Verlander. Both were disasters. Where they could have, they almost got Bauer. That would have been a complete mess. So we shall see here how this works with Cohen, with Soto. The Giants are the other team that is interesting. We haven't mentioned them too much. It was an interesting hire and a good hire with Buster Posey. The one negative is it's very difficult if it doesn't work out to fire a local hero. Go ask the Knicks with Willis Reed why the Cubs never hired Ryan Sandberg as their manager. You don't want to have a guy who's a Hall of Famer who has represented 3 championships as a catcher for your team, and then you hire him as the sort of VP, baseball president of baseball ops, and he lays an egg. That makes it very, very difficult. How are you going to split with him? But, bottom line is it was out of the box thinking. Buster knows what he's doing. We shall see what the Giants will do. I would not, if I'm the Giants, play in the deep end of the pool with these free agents. That hasn't worked for them. They were never going to sign Judge. They didn't sign Correa, which they got a break for. Ohtani, Yamamoto were never going there. So for the Giants to run to get Soto, I don't think they want to go play in San Francisco right now. They're in a tough division, number 1. Ballpark's very big, number 2. It's cold. So if I'm the Giants, I go in a little different direction. We shall see if they do that. They have money, and they need to win. The Dodgers, the Padres, the whole bit. And number 3 of the Orioles, I could see the Orioles as being one of these secretive teams to get Soto. First off, they got an owner who's got $1 billion, and that's Rubenstein, the new owner. That's the first. The second thing, they had a terrible finish to this season, and they got a bunch of free agents, including their upstanding right fielder right now, and Burns. And maybe the owner would want to go out there and spend a fortune. They don't have a big high-priced player and spend a fortune here to put Soto in right field. He's young enough to go with that core. He hurts the Yankees, and he's in the same division. That's got to be a little add-on from that perspective. And, he has Soto there. He doesn't necessarily have to go crazy to both keep Rutschman and Henderson. So I'm going to throw that out there just for the heck of it. It's on the East Coast. It's a great ballpark. It's a great baseball town. It's a good team. I wouldn't rule the Orioles out. You want to give you a surprise team? I know that's not the way they operate, but the owner's different. He just took over in April. So I'll go Baltimore as far as the whole thing was Soto is concerned. All right, there you go. That's where we begin on a busy program today. I'm going to talk to Michael Kay in a little bit. Alana's part of the mix, and she says, hello, Miss Rizzo. The floor is yours. Take it away. Go ahead.
All right, Chris. Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Sad it's our last show together, but thankful for the last 4 years. As far as turning the page, Christopher, there's 3 teams I have in mind that I'm wondering what's going to happen as far as the offseason is concerned. Let's start with the Kansas City Royals. Can J.J. Picollo have another offseason like he did last year? Because I think J.J. Picollo won the offseason, and I think the Kansas City Royals were a lot better than a lot of people gave them credit for, obviously making the postseason this year. Most of the rotation, Seth Lugo, Cole Reagans, Brady Singer, Alec Marsh, they're going to be back. Michael Wacha has a player option, and Michael Lorenzen, he's going to be a free agent. Piccolo and Matt Quatraro have acknowledged they would like to add pitching depth since they had great luck with being healthy in 2024. They need to get a leadoff hitter, Chris. Their leadoff hitters were last in the majors with a 270 OBP and 29th with a 604 OPS in 2024. They'd also like to add a middle-of-the-order bat to go along with Salvador Perez and Vinny Pasquantino. So if Piccolo can do kind of what he did last year, I think the Royals are going to be even better than they were in 2024. Of course, having Bobby Witt Jr. there goes without saying. They signed him to a long-term deal, the face of the franchise. And also, congratulations to Salvador Perez on winning the coveted Roberto Clemente Award. The next team, as always, that I'm paying attention to, the Los Angeles Dodgers. But Chris, specifically, what is this Dodgers rotation going to look like in 2024? You think about the fact that Walker Buehler, who got the final out in the World Series, who's about to go to a parade, he's a free agent. Are they going to give him a qualifying offer? Are they going to give him a long-term extension? What are they going to do? But think about the guys that they're getting back. We know Kershaw's coming back. He said he was coming back. Doesn't necessarily mean with the Dodgers, but he's coming back. The Dodgers are going to have Shohei Ohtani, Tyler Glasnow, Tony Gonsolin, Dustin May, maybe Buehler, maybe Kershaw. I mean, this is an interesting situation. What is this rotation going to be like? Finally, a healthy rotation. Obviously, they were decimated all season long. Kershaw has a player option, $15 million, I think it is, for next season, so we'll see what he's doing. Tyler Glasnow recently said his elbow's feeling better, so hopefully they can get an entire season of Tyler Glasnow, one of the best signings that the Dodgers had. Obviously, he pitched really well until he got hurt there at the end. The last team for me is the St. Louis Cardinals. I think this team this year, Chris, was a huge disappointment, and now there's already talk that they're willing to trade away Nolan Arenado, their perennial all-star at third base. So that's disappointing, I think, because I thought the Cardinals were going to be a lot better. But Chaim Bloom's going to take over as the president of baseball ops after the 2025 season, replacing Mozeliak there. Until then, he's going to focus on player development. Paul Goldschmidt's going to be a free agent. Multiple sources have told The Athletic's Katie Wu that he won't be back in St. Louis, so it looks like Paul Goldschmidt, as a Cardinal, his time there is done. And Nolan Arenado's probably going to get traded, so we'll see. I mean, one bright spot for them, Ryan Helsley, the great closer. So that's not something that they need to focus on. But what are the Cardinals going to look like next season? I mean, the team that has the second most World Series championships behind the New York Yankees, are they going to get back to that Cardinal way, Chris? I mean, what do you think as far as the Cardinals are concerned in terms of what they need to do the most to get back to where they want to be?
No, pitching, Alana. They need pitching. I know they let Kyle Gibson. He's going to leave, but they need some pitching. They need some big time. I know that obviously Goldschmidt and Arenado were significant. Their offense, they didn't hit at all. You got to expect both. Well, Goldschmidt's a free agent, but you got to expect Arenado to bounce back. But they don't have good enough pitching. Sonny Gray, they don't need some pitching. And they've been, an insignificant big team in that free agent scenario for a long time. Let's see if they do some things. Good job out of Miss Rizzo. She's got a lot more to do here as the show moves along on this first day of November. I'm going to talk to Michael Kay next on the Yankees and that iconic call with Mr. November. Stick with us here on High Heat. Here we go now. The Yankee play-by-play man who made that great call on radio 20-something years ago is our pal Michael Kay. There you see him as he joins us now. That was a classic series. Those games at Yankee Stadium were great, Mike, and that's a tremendous call. Did you think about it when it turned to November when Jeter was up? Did it come to you when he was rounding the bases? How about Mr. November? Let me hear. Go ahead.
I did think about it a little bit before, especially when I knew that the game was going to go into November. I said, wow, if anybody hits a home run here or ends the game, they're going to be Mr. November, because you always think of Reggie as Mr. October. So it wasn't like as it happened. It was just a little bit before. And there were some signs around the stadium, too, that you saw in that clip. Somebody was holding Mr. November. So it all came together when he hit the home run. Why not call him Mr. November? And that's kind of stuck.
It sure has. And you did a lot of see-yas around the bases. You love that see-ya one. I'm sure you had done that prior. I'm not sure how many years you have been in the Yankee radio booth before this game, but bottom line is you gave me a lot of see-yas when he was rounding the bases. How about that? About 4 or 5 of them. How about that for a sec? Let me hear.
Christopher, that's the first and only multiple see-ya in my career. 32 years doing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just said, wow, what a home run. And just an enormity of the moment. I came out with 3 see-yas. But, yeah, I was doing see-ya since the very first game I broadcast with John Sterling in 1992. So that's the first multiple see ya.
Has Jeter ever acknowledged the idea that you were the first to call him Mr. November?
He has not, but I remember when he went into the Hall of Fame, he said, I appreciate the fact that you got to document most of the big moments of my career. And it's really weird, Chris, because, you know, when I was doing the games for 10 years with John, I only did 3 innings of play-by-play. But every single moment, it seemed like Jeter had a big moment, was in one of those 3 innings of play-by-play that I did. So I'm kind of like piggybacked to the greatness of Derek Jeter. So I'm happy for that.
There you go. Let's turn our attention to what we just saw with the Yankees. You think the higher front office is alarmed at how poorly they played in certain scenarios in this series, or did they think their home runs were going to camouflage the base running and some of the outfield scenarios? Give me a little rundown on what you think Brian Cashman and his crew are thinking about right now, 48 hours after they blew the game the other night with the 5-0 lead.
Well, I don't think they could have been shocked because, you know, they're obviously very much into the metrics, and every single metric that you look at, it says they're one of the worst base running teams in the game, if not the worst. The defense has never been really, really tight. And I think that the Yankees build their team, you know, on home runs and on swing and miss ability of their pitchers. And you know what? It worked. They won the American League pennant, but they also came upon a team that builds their team on the same way, but also has good defense. And you can't give the Dodgers, you know, 6 outs in an inning as the Yankees did in the 5th inning on Game 5. But if you ask me what they're thinking about today, I haven't spoken to anybody with the Yankees in the last couple of days. They're thinking about, you know, life with Juan Soto and life without Juan Soto. So they're coming up with plan A and plan B and maybe even a plan C. So I think that's what's foremost on their mind.
Well, we'll get to that here momentarily. Would you think, I was thinking about, you know, obviously Mazeroski, you'd have to put one of those Red Sox games in there in 04. You know, the Yankees have won 3 championships, the series that you did there with Jeter, Mr. November against Arizona in a row. So I can't go crazy on that blue pit that Gonzalez got. But Wednesday may have been one of the worst losses, top 3 or 4 in the history of the Yankee franchise. Is that too strong, or do you agree with that?
No, I don't think it's too strong. I still think that 2001, that's the worst because, you know, obviously it was the 7th game, so it was do or die for both teams. This was do or die just for the Yankees. And the unusual thing, though, Chris, they came back to take the lead. So as bad as that inning was, they do have a battle-tested scoring that they've shown throughout the year. After bad losses, they bounce back, bad innings. And they did bounce back from that awful inning to take a 6-5 lead, and then they gave it up in the 8th. So, yeah, it's troubling. It's one of the worst innings and definitely one of the worst losses in the organization's history. But there have been a lot. And, you know, obviously we get caught up sometimes in recency bias, but that was pretty darn bad.
It sure was. I thought they win both Cole starts. That's why I picked the Yankees in 7. And he pitched well in both games, and they lost both games. I think that's the deal. In Game 1, Mike, I thought, you know, you can't beat them 5 times. And Game 1, to me, is where the Yankees, in a lot of ways, lost this World Series before we get to Soto. What's your take with that? Let me hear.
I couldn't agree with you more. Game 1 was tough. And, you know, I still question, and I understand the Yankee thinking, but I question bringing in Nestor Cortez, a guy who had not pitched in 6 weeks, into that game when, you know, Tim Hill had pitched beautifully all year. And Tim Hill actually faced those batters later on in the series and got them out. So he certainly has the ability to do that. But that was a gut punch for sure. And the way I look at it, Chris, if things went according to the way they should have, you know, the Yankees, I think, at one point in Game 1 had an 86% win percentage chance. And then in Game 5, it was 95%. We should be getting ready for Game 6 tonight in L.A. That's where I think the series should be. And I think that if the Yankees had won Game 5, the Dodgers would be feeling a lot of heat right now. Also, the way they use their pitching, Game 6 and 7, they would have been hard-pressed to get outs.
100% they would be tight. I couldn't agree with you more. Did you have any problem with Soto giving you one of those open to all 30 teams 10 minutes after the body was thrown out of the car, dead as a carcass? Were you a little surprised? I mean, there's a way you can handle that and a way you can't handle that. He was a little too open to free agency as soon as the team lost. Did that bother you in any way or not?
I was a little surprised because he's so smart and Scott Boras is so smart. I mean, there's a way to say that at that point. You know they're going to ask you. So the reporters didn't do anything wrong, Chris. what he should have said, listen, this is a really tough loss. I'm still getting over it. We'll talk about this in the future, but this is not the time. But he seemed very, very amenable to sitting there and saying the Yankees have no advantage. And that was kind of a kick in the teeth because I thought he enjoyed his time with the Yankees. The fans treated him like royalty. And I've been saying on my radio show all year, I don't think the Yankees are going to gain a great advantage by having him here other than getting a great player. And he helped them get to the World Series. But I just think it's going to be about who gives him the most money. Now, I will admit that he did have a great time, and the fans treated him well, the organization treated him well, that if all things are being equal, I think he'd come back to the Yankees. But if he gets blown away by an offer from the Mets or the Dodgers or whomever you want, the Toronto Blue Jays, then I think he's going to go there. And, and when you ask me if I'm surprised, remember one thing, Chris, that after Garrett Cole pitched his last game with the Houston Astros in the World Series, that's the World Series that the Astros lost, he came and met the media, and he was not wearing an Astro cap. He was wearing a Scott Boras Corporation cap. So, I mean, these guys are all business, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's all business for the owners, and the ball players certainly make it all business as well.
The Yankees with Cole, he opts out. They got to give him another $36 million. I mean, I would be shocked if he's not a Yankee, but an extra $36 million for a 39, 40-year-old pitcher, that's not exactly what you want to do either if you're the Yankees. What's your take with that? Let me hear.
Well, I think with those long-term deals, Chris, I think you kind of just know that the final couple of years are going to be shot. It's going to be wasted money, and I think it's more important to keep him. So $36 million down the line to give him 5 more years rather than 4. I certainly think that they do that, and I understand why that was put in there. I mean, the one caveat would be, they took him out in that first game because of 88 pitches that he was supposedly, he was shot, according to Aaron Boone. And, he missed the first half of the season with injury. So you got to make sure he's healthy. And if he does opt out and you give him that extra year, is he going to be healthy next year? Or are you going to be paying him to rehab? I think he's going to be fine, especially in that last game. He's throwing 99 miles an hour. He threw 108 pitches. I just think he's so valuable to the Yankees and the Yankee brand that the $36 million 5 years down the line, I think it's something that they have to do. And I think it's something that they will do.
All right, last thing and quick. Judge, I know he dropped a fly ball. I understand that. But he made a big catch. He hit a 2-run homer, and then he doubled in the 8th inning, which is a huge hit. Do you think Judge, in certain ways, salvaged his postseason / World Series by the last game and a half? Or are the Yankee fan and him specifically going to be haunted by what happened in Game 5? What's your take with that?
Well, Chris, just being from the area, every Yankee is always going to be graded on what they do in the postseason. So in that last game, yeah, he dropped the fly ball, which opened up the 5-run inning. And, anybody could do that. And I'm sure, as he said, it's going to haunt him till the day he dies. But he had a home run, he had a double, he had 2 walks. And I think if the series went on to a Game 6 and Game 7, he was going to really have legacy moments. But unfortunately, that's not the way it turns out. So at some point in his career, he's going to have to step up big in the postseason in order just to complete the greatness cycle that he's built. But at this point, I'm sure Yankee fans will still, hold some doubt about whether or not he could do it in October. I think he could. The home run off Clase was gigantic, and I think it also ruined the aura of invincibility that the Guardian bullpen had. And then I think in Game 5, he stepped up. Obviously, you can't do anything about the drop fly ball. That was awful. He knows it too. But when it came to offense, he was right there. And he's such a good guy, works so hard, and really treats the game the right way. And handles himself in such a beautiful way. It's hard for me to come down hard on the guy.
Good job, Mike. Thanks for coming on here. Short notice, too. Keep up the great work. Appreciate a few minutes here. Always a pleasure.
Anytime, Chris. Thank you.
And you got it with Michael Kay. Great to have him aboard on the Yanks. Lots to still do. A little musical segment with Palpable. Brad Paisley is coming up next. Don't go away.
Our songwriter, Brad Paisley, kind enough to join me now. Longtime Dodgers fan. Brad, always good to be with you. So happy to have this celebration with you. I know that you love this team. And what's that like? It's not the first time that you have sung the national anthem for the Dodgers, but it hits a little differently when it's for the World Series. What goes through your mind?
Yeah, I've done these a couple of times. One time was the weirdest one was 2020 because they had us pre-tape our anthems. Anybody they asked to do the anthem. So, and they also decided which ones were home games, even though they were all played in the same stadium. So on one of our home games, I I went to an empty Little League field here and taped it. And that was really bizarre. It was like, it was very apocalyptic. It was that, there's no children playing. They're not allowed. I set up a camera on the pitcher's mound and did the song at home plate. But this one, I think after all of that, after having them winning in 2020 and so many people saying that wasn't legit, which isn't true, but they saying that this meant so much more, having been through what we've all been through, I think, and as fans and as just as a team, I think they really took it very serious, that they wanted to prove that they are as good as advertised. And in this anthem, having sung, you feel the pressure for the game that you sung at. Like, you really feel like if they lose, you're getting blamed. And so you can imagine in the 9th and 10th, I'm thinking, oh, I'm so dead. They're just, as we tied and then we lost the lead. When Freddie hit that, I've never felt that swing of emotion in that quick of an instant. And the other time I sang an anthem in 2018, and it was for the 18-inning game for Max's walk-off. So I literally now have 2 out of the 5 walk-offs in the history of the Dodgers. I sang the anthem at it.
Well, then you should be the MVP, not this Freddie Freeman guy. Let's speak to the fact that you were in on this whole situation with Tyler Glasnow coming to the Los Angeles Dodgers. For those that don't know the story, Brad, obviously winter meetings last year were in Nashville, which is where one of your homes is. Take us through the moment that you had Andrew Friedman and Dave Roberts and Dave Vassay over to the house talking Tampa Bay Rays and Tyler Glasnow. Tell us that story.
Well, it didn't start out as that. It started out as David Vassay was in town, who's a dear friend of mine and yours as well, although you would never admit that. And we had talked about, look, you guys are in town. I've got this bar. Why don't you guys come over when you need a... And I even offered it to Andrew. I said, if you need a safe space that's private, that is... the kind of place you could have a meeting and it's off site of the bubble there, where the Opryland Hotel where everybody was. Come down and he said, you know what? I think we're going to need a drink by the end of this. And so they had planned on that night, which was the last night of the whole thing, for him and Doc and the whole front office to come down. And I'd been texting with Doc about it. And then as they came down, it was the same day that Doc was very honest with the media. And I thought he was a hero for even being so, when he said, yeah, we met with Ohtani, of course. And then it was, as you know, all hell broke loose. It was the end of the world. And so when they came down, I met them at the door with glasses of Pappy bourbon, I was like, here. And I gave Doc and Andrew each a glass and was like, it was like this therapeutic thing. And while they were there, it was when Andrew said, what do you think of Tyler Glasnow? I said, I think he's amazing. And he's like, well, I really want him. Let's see if he said, say hi to Eric Neander. So I get on the phone with Eric and I'm like, Eric, if you were just with the right team, you could be here. And then, and that's when Andrew was like, you know what? Can they come down? I said, yeah, that'd be amazing. That'd be just unreal to have them. And so several of the Rays front office, Eric, a couple of his guys got in an Uber, came down to the farm. And the next thing you know, we have the Rays front office and the Dodgers front office all just having a ball. We just had a ball. You're pouring whiskey, smoking cigars. I'll never forget that night. And just the idea, too, that it led to something. And also it was really there to sort of get through this winter meetings where nothing happened. I mean, nobody signed anything at that.
You were, when you did the national anthem, wearing a button for Fernando Valenzuela. Fittingly, the parade is in about an hour in Los Angeles, and today would have been Fernando's 64th birthday. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You can't write it better in Hollywood as far as the script is concerned. What did he mean in your opinion, Brad, to the organization and just you as a Dodger fan? I know you've had a chance, obviously, to walk through those halls. You've been at the stadium a million times, but it's almost, it's very symbolic that the parade is today on what would have been his 64th birthday.
Not only that, but the walk-off on Monday, he was 63 and we won 6-3. And that, I don't know if we won the World Series game 1, but just about. I mean, it was like, it did feel like the second he did that, a friend of mine sent me a meme or a picture, which was Saint Fernando, which was basically his face on a saint. And it was like, it did feel a little like a bit divine. And he was really an amazing story and somebody who revolutionized the sport. You were friends with Vin. You know how much Vin just celebrated what he brought culturally to the Dodgers and what he brought as a human being, and then to be this voice of the Dodgers in Spanish, and the guy that really, like, he embraced being a part of it the rest of his life. And yeah, it's weird. It's just all so weird. In baseball, I guess all of us should not be surprised in the romance of baseball and the way things seem bigger than coincidence in this sport, because unlike any other sport, it does feel like there's so many little, like, you're just like God winks all throughout the sport.
No question about it. Fernando Valenzuela would have been 64 today, and hopefully he's enjoying the parade that is about to happen in Los Angeles. We didn't get one in 2020 after that World Series, but they get it today. Brad, always a pleasure talking to you. My best to Kim and the boys. Congratulations as one of the best Dodgers fans out there. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us on High Heat.
Oh, man, I love this show. You do a great job. I can't wait till they rename it Alana and get rid of that other guy. Kidding.
I'll let them know. It'll be the High Heat with Alana Rizzo. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
All right. All right. Take care, my friend. Brad Paisley, the best. Getting ready for the championship parade. That is the Kershaw family, of course, Clayton and Ellen and their 4 kids. Dodger Stadium is sold out for the parade. That's getting going. We're going to get you there. We're going to take the Sportsnet LA coverage and get you set. All coming up after High Heat. We'll be right back. NTT Ballpark Cam taking us out to Dodger Stadium. The fans are already making their way into the stadium as they get ready for the parade to conclude there at Chavez Ravine. And of course, the players will be on buses going throughout the city of Los Angeles. They will end here, and the championship trophy will be presented, of course, in front of the fans. We're going to get you to that parade momentarily after High Heat ends up. I'm going to get you over there to take the Sportsnet LA coverage. Chris, what do you think about this? I mean, there hasn't been a back-to-back World Series champion since the Yankees did it, obviously. Do you think that this could be a start of a dynasty for the Dodgers, considering, who they're getting back if they win another one? I mean, Shohei has won. He said 9 more to Andrew Friedman, so let's see.
Yeah, listen, obviously they're going to have chances every year. This is a tremendously won franchise. You and I were talking about this yesterday. I do think right now they're the best franchise in professional sports, and that's including the Kansas City Chiefs and, of course, the Celtics. I think they're the best franchise in the sport right now. They're going to be in the playoffs every year, as they have been since when? I don't even know when the last time they didn't make the playoffs was. It's been 15, 16 years. They have a limit, an unbounded. They have just a bushel full of money. They use it properly. They're going to have Ohtani pitch a little bit next year. Won't have the same offensive numbers, but he's going to pitch. They make moves in the pitching department. Maybe Glasnow is healthy. They're still very young. I mean, Betts has got plenty of years left. Freeman's got some good baseball left in him. Obviously, Ohtani just getting started. They get a free agent or 2 if they have to. I don't think they're going to get Soto, but they give a free agent or 2. This is a great, great team. They're going to be in the playoffs every year. Now, if you can get the ball to bounce your way in those games, that's always tricky. We know that. But they will have a chance to win multiple World Championships with this group. That's how good this franchise is. It depends how you classify the word dynasty. Playoffs to win every year is tricky, as you know. A lot of rounds. A lot of rounds.
Chris, I don't think the Dodgers need Soto. Do you?
No, I do not. I do not. I think it's bad for baseball if they get him. They spent $1 billion last year on the 2 guys. Nobody's going to complain about that. But now you're going to get Soto after they won. I think that's a bad look. Let's see what happens here down the road. Hopefully they won't.
All right. Yeah, much more to do after the break. High Heat rolls on our last show. We'll be right back after this.
The Dodgers proved they're more than just a powerhouse. They're a team that shows up when it matters most, demonstrating grit, teamwork, and a never-give-up attitude. From that nail-biting fifth inning to the impressive work by every player, they showcased what makes champions. It's more than just talent. It's heart, resilience, and a commitment to each other and their fans. If this game had you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on every new video and all the action-packed moments to come.